Lead members, welcome to the meeting committee for leader, deputy leader, housing and customer service. Council January. For Councillor Liz Sotwell, Councillor Substitute, Councillor Sam Smith, Substitute for Councillor declarations of interest from anything in respect on I see nobody. Thank you. Item 4, confirm the meetings to the meeting held on November the 9th of November 2022. If you would all like to vote on those minutes, agree, please. Just what I'm doing, it's some sort of echo I can hear. Oh, okay, they're on board there. Yeah, okay, those minutes. Item 5, consider items the chairman considers none. Item 6, draft corporate plan budget for 2023-24, tonight. Well, I'm going to run this in 3 sections. We've got section 1, which is introduction and financial context. We've got section 2, the service members of this council.
Thank you, Chairman, and good evening, colleagues. And it's always good this time of year to come back to the new year, looking at our plans for the financial year ahead. And we have this conversation this year at a difficult time for all organisations and for our communities, as the economic situation and high inflation take their toll on everyone. And of course, this council is not immune from any of those pressures, as you will have seen in the report. In the rising costs through inflation, high demand for, whilst also ensuring we protect what we want to deliver for our local communities. And you'll see at its heart the reflecting decision the Cabinet made for the current financial year carried forward into next financial year, essentially proposing to use the Treasury management income that's increasing at the current time to balance some of those inflationary pressures recognised as higher interest rates points to the Chairman beforehand. You highlighted quite rightly the priorities that we set for ourselves to remind ourselves to all our impacts. Many years now, down financial management, the moment was in the plan to expand on race, for example. On council tax, I was mentioning we have more for sometime in the medium-term financial 7.5% increase in council for the year ahead, has given councils the ability to go to a higher level. We're proposing to take that higher.
Thank you and good evening. Thanks everyone. So just a few comments just to update you a little bit because you'll know that since the papers were written, just to make sure I introduce to you all my colleagues. And you'll see tonight we've got all the directors in their new roles and all the new assistants. Some are new to the council, new in a second group councillors, please listen to that. Well, all my colleagues, some faces you'll recognise, others aren't you, to support us through this discussion and of course begin to get to know you, which is so important. So that's a little introduction to the officers. In terms of the papers ahead of you, you've got in front of you tonight three main components to achieving a balanced position, which as you know is critical. Firstly, as the leader said, a recommended council tax level at 2.75% as outlined in paragraph 13 of the separately collated papers. Some modest increases to fees and charges broadly on a cost recovery basis. Paragraph 33. And then, as the leader has said, using some of the treasury management income, where we're enjoying the positive side of higher interest rates, to help bring the budget into balance. And that is the biggest component, just so you're aware. That's a significant amount of money we'll need to use, just around £500,000, I think. Okay. So as we go through the discussion, if you are thinking about different options from other than those that's in the paper, important to remember this: you want to take, you want to also take. And then the final thing, just to remind you, is that, or to brief you on, is the so not a huge amount of variation, and certainly nothing that needs us to change the recommendations we put in front of you in terms of a strategy for achieving 3 components that I've outlined. In terms of the detail of that, the government has changed the names of some of the grants that it gives us, which makes direct comparisons about £250,000 more than we've good news, but and that means we need to rely slightly less on the Treasury. Post-pandemic, that we do need to be conscientiously building our reserves up, having lent on them for the last couple of years, you know that. So this is the first year, I hesitate to say post-pandemic, because one never knows really where one is, do we? But if you like, not living in a world of restrictions anymore, this is the first budget since that started where you're not using reserves to achieve a balanced position. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you very much. So, as I said, it's in the three sections. Section now, and then I would to 112, please.
Read mine. No efficiency savings written in for this year, but we have efficiency savings written in for the rest of the plan. Just like some comment on that, please.
How many questions you got, Councillor Trumbull? Because I might say.
I wouldn't bother taking them. As long as I can remember. I can't remember what here. Given that, and I assume this is made up of a mix of investments, given that interest rates are very different now, why is that at 240,000? Inflation here, 1829 for year one, 261,634, 4. It's my understanding that inflation is projected to fall somewhat. Be interested to know the basis on which that is worked out. Is it cumulative, or are we?
Your various ground services, but when we went to the market, we weren't able to secure what we needed to do. So we need to do more work with the market to do that. So those were the main savings we were looking at. I think also I would say that, you know, that the authorities experienced a lot of pressure during the pandemic. I think the issues that are services are certainly efficiencies. In the 23-24 year that we're discussing. With regards to the local authority property fund, I think we've probably taken a number and run it through the form of an assumption. And to my knowledge, the number itself will vary each year according to how the fund performs. I think it does, so that might explain that one. And then may I go to Rachel Louise on the inflation assumptions? Thanks.
So yes, the inflation assumptions are something that would traditionally be done and has historically been done here. In a year like this where inflation is so unusual, it obviously makes a different effect. So the focus will really be on year one, and we'll do much more sophisticated modelling how interest rates come down. So I ask us to be particularly focused on year one, which is based on assumption that you
Chair, my first comments relate to page 2, which significant cliffage says, which is the question is referring to so what are we doing? Into business money out. Cash. Page 5, which is about energy. Is my final point is that the money that we will kick back and go, now sorry, we're insulating you from all of these costs. You're going to have to cut your cloth as well.
Thank
you very
Councillor.
much. Reformed.
Okay, I'll start, but just to warn colleagues, I will to rate. But your first is really important one under paragraph 10. Funding reform is specifically the rates retention scheme. Now, I talked about this loads. Really ever go away. And we know now that this reform is not likely to happen. You can see where it kicked further down the road again. And you're quite right that it does look like a really dire cliff edge for this council. What I should say is that what we were expecting from the government, in now or when those changes are imposed, we will get detail on the action are facing such a cliff edge in terms of. So we're expecting I think we'll have to do because the council's far more seriously affected. But we don't have that. We're still worst here, but we are optimistic it will be improved better than it looks at the moment. So that's the answer to that question. I'm just going to skip, if I may, over the business rates for evaluations. I think I know the answer, but it would be safe to go to colleagues on that. Your point about inflation and I don't think there's a question in that. I'm just going to move over that.
It was energy.
Yeah, and I'm going to go energy and water. And they are estimates. And you'll see we are seeing a real mixture across the piece, but those are our forecasts for now. So you know, of course, we'll scrutinise those. So yes, so that's we'll start in April next year. It's not something unfortunately we have here at the Evaluation Office. There is an appeals process, so we'll see as we go through the numbers, we haven't actually had an impact in terms of
Chair, I think it was possible. The current security going forward. Well, now to go to the next. It will be 100 and doesn't make a massive dent in the in its money. We will
so that might be something that this group wants to recommend. Cabinet wants to do. Also, this comes in full as full council where you set the tax next month. So that is an option. What we've done is well, I won't restate what's in paragraph 13. We've followed to increase the council tax to a slightly higher percentage.
Councillor Jackson, please. Yeah, I noticed last year we relied on the original budget to that was much larger than what was originally suggested in the initial budget. I noticed this year was how confident are we that is a figure that will be kept to? Bearing in mind that sort of it doesn't really decide what next year's payable will be, that's quite a substantial sort of sum in the budget of the council.
There's still a lot of uncertainty in our sector around the way the year may pan out, but whether we will achieve the level of income that we will ability as we can as of today, not knowing what we don't know, we won't need to lean on reserves. Obviously, things do go terribly wrong, and there are a lot of very unexpected costs. All the inflation. Looking at it's looking at 1% or £19. What work have we done to ensure we're minimising the amount of postage we're using, given there are electronic forms of communication?
Chair, thank welcome to the new members. Thank you. Very reassuring. For all the work that you've done, clearly a huge amount of work that's been done since obviously August, September. Just the progress that you've back through, etc. as well. Between September and January, the great purpose really to minimise the albeit using some of the so with we've been lucky. I mean, the situation with inflation is through various inflation effect from our service contracts, etc., which will take the hit. But as Louise has already said, inflation will so that will sort of wash itself through. One particular point, we were lucky, I think, through the COVID period with our reserves to have that rebalanced through the sale of Hurst Farm. One thing I would request, which I think I've said in previous sessions, a reserves replacement sort of action plan, and how that will come about, particularly with some of our other property disposals in our portfolio, which I know that we have, some of which is ongoing work, and that deals fell through the COVID period for obvious reasons. But I would like to see some sort of report in writing of a reserves replacement plan to get to a balanced position. Overall, very, very pleased. Thank you very much for all the work that's been done.
I'd like on minor message, I'd like a saving of £5,000 sending papers out as class post.
Okay.
Yes, we have. And you're right, you know, it's something that we
on the first section. We're going to move now to section 2, pages 13 to 42. That is split into 3 subsections. So pages 16 to 22, planning and sustainable economy and communities. Judy, you were going to lead us in on this? Thank you. So pages 16.
Paragraph where there's a typo, apologies for that. The C should actually say district. I think you've heard me say those words so many times, you probably read it and didn't even notice the C and just replaced it with district. So apologies for that typo. I wasn't going to say very much other than to say that we're very good at sort of banking things and moving on to the next thing and to the next thing. And I think it's sometimes worth just pausing and taking stock at the achievements that we've been able to make during the year. So I just wanted to point out a few highlights that this council's done in my particular service area this year, achieved in my area this year. So we adopted Association's DPD. That's no mean feat. Many councils around us can't even get their plan in place, unfortunately. So I think that's a significant achievement. The council, you, agreed a sustainable economic strategy and set net zero targets. Again, significant achievement. We've delivered over 200 affordable homes this year. We've provided support to businesses through our micro businesses grants. We've provided support to local communities through our Safer Streets Fund, particularly focusing on support for young people. We've dealt with over 1,800 people through our health and wellbeing service. We've 300 social behaviour. Just providing enhancements. We live at 90%, enable them to stay at home and their homes, and we've carried out over 160 safety checks to enable Ukraine visitors to remain. I think that's quite significant, and you know, we should all really just I suppose dwell on that for a moment. Stops does it next year, of course. We've got other significant projects. So planning, we never stop plan making. So we've got the review of our district plan. We're proposals for expansion through their DCO process. We will be bringing shortly to Scrutiny Committee our proposals around public space protection orders, and we'll be following the government's lead on housing standards. And that's just to name a few of the things we'll be doing next year. So I think that we're looking forward to an exciting new year, and me and my team are here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Judy. Councillor Janice Henwood.
Looking on page 13, I see where loss collector. Interested to know whether 3 days is a huge demand to do this. This is, you know, where I'm on table 5 and 6, so I'm curious about, is there a big demand for this to go from 3 days to 5 days? And then I'm also interested in the garden waste service contract costs. To join. And in your capital projects, you consider this an increase as just low risk. But I wonder if it might not be a little bit higher risk, assuming with living. And one thing that people wouldn't waste collection. So those are my couple of queries about that specific table. Thank you.
Okay, I'll start with this. Actually, in terms of what I answered previously, is that we, to Councillor Hicks, which is there is a significant demand, and so what we've done is we've tried to assess, as best we know this market, that we think we can confidently invest in order to extend the number of people who are able to access the service, and we've never really been able to fulfil demand for this since we've been running it, so we're fairly confident around that. Similarly, our assumptions around bulky waste. Again, it's been a very popular service, but Simon can give you more information on both of your queries.
Thank you. Yeah. It won't surprise me that we base these projections on data that we receive. So, for example, with bulky waste, what we look at is the demand for that service, how we need that service, and also then look at the increased demand for that service. So, we meet to that demand, and we'll have to build in efficiencies in order to meet increased demand. I think that's a good news story, really. People learning that we can deliver that service, and we can take that material back for recycling, for example. So I think that for us is a good news story to be able to provide that service to more of our residents. The same applies to garden waste, as the Chief Secretary was saying. What we see there is an increasing number of people wanting to use the garden waste service, coming to us, and bluntly at the necessarily we can't provide them until we invest in that service. So increase in investment
Thank you, Chairman. Excuse me. Not necessarily a question. May I make an observation? And I think it's one I've made frequently at these meetings. Where I've come from in financial services, we would have to make smart objectives every year to justify the budget we're asking for. So those objectives would be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound, and so on. And that being the case, those objectives would then justify the spend I was asking for. Now, I know we're in a list of can see. Yes, this is how we are proposing to spend the public's money going forward.
This
Thank you, Councillor Trombossi. No more in that section. So moving to pages 23 to 34, digital and people services, commercial services and contracts. So start page 23. Simon, I think you leading on this one. Thank you very much.
So this section is our achievements, but in summary, what we're proposing to do is on many of the touch points of our residents. They also meet a variety of our objectives. So, for example, if we look at measure that contributes to health and well-being, particularly to strong and resilient communities, it's not just a service people to enjoy, it's people earlier our presence in community groups, you'll have seen now most are 300 tenants for businesses and community groups. That service within the district. Revenues and benefits, you'll have read over the course of COVID, has distributed over 6.5 million for COVID business rates relief. That's something more recently, we've supported over 40,000 residents with £6 million worth of assistance for energy rebates. And again, those are services that have been above and beyond what our revenue services have normally had to do. So we've responded in an agile way and in an effective way for our local communities and businesses. Moving on, housing options, and lucky enough to take this on in this role from my colleague Judy up there. And that service really focusing in on what we've done to support those people in temporary accommodation. We've reduced those numbers of people in temporary accommodation. That's moved to over 50 Christmas. So considerable achievement there. And with all these services, it's not just reflect the trends we see from the data coming in, but also predict, as the Chief Executive said, what is to come. And so a number of both our investments, capital investments, but also the detail in the service plans about how we respond to that, how we deliver digitalising some of our processes so that our staff can respond more effectively and more quickly to the demands that we face. I'll touch on our contracts and services. The trial that's been launched and how that has been. Not solely down to us, but also down to the enthusiasm and participation clearly of our residents in terms of how they're taking up that service. And recently the government have announced consultation on how that will be, on the views of authorities, both waste collection and waste disposal authorities, on how that will be taken across the country. And so we're key to engaging that and helping our neighbours learn from what we've done around that particular trial. And that's really what I'm saying.
I'm sorry about this. I would just echo what Simon has just said. I think this council's done sterling work in housing options and revs and bears. No question about that this year. On contracts and services, I would just like to make a plea. Please. We have indeed a substantial amount of money from the shared prosperity fund, and this has been focused on the 3 towns. So, I don't know if anybody has been to and tried and waded through the mud and the dips and everything else and see if they can use mental or poinings or Paikun. Been waiting 6 years done what it did for they were.
Yes.
Please do not feel
Thank you, Joe. When we look at our past, we look at all of our past, and as you'll have read, page 24, we are now issues to receive the income from section 106 in order to some background story, what the risks are there.
We're looking at satisfaction with the waste recycling and grounds maintenance. Both of those we're reducing the target. So an explanation of the reasons for that. Housing options, we're reviewing the allocations policy in terms of next year. I wonder if we're going to review the provider as well in terms of Clarion Housing. Are we satisfied with them as a provider? And so in terms of IT and the additional expenditure on devices and endpoint whatevers and so on, do we have a longer term strategy in terms of are we still holding our own centralised servers? Do we see any savings from that in terms of going fully to the cloud? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So first was leisure. About the sort of management fee, how secure is that, I believe?
If I take your question, negotiations are currently ongoing, so they're commercially sensitive. We are anticipating bringing in a management fee. That is our position. That continues to be our position. The risks are, as we have with all other contracts, in terms of inflationary pressures and so on. But as I said, those negotiations are currently
Waste management, no. Yeah.
the waste management question. We answered that at previous scrutiny. That's a shift in the way we do the surveys. They were previously face-to-face. Now it's online and we conduct those. Online surveys give a generally low feedback than the face-to-face surveys. That purely reflects that. What's key is that we're able to do those surveys in real time, anytime, and act on the feedback without needing to be collated over time. That means that it improves our ability to performance manage both of those contracts.
Housing was the next question, housing provider.
housing market. So in terms of housing allocation, we've yet to review that, so managed, and we will be reviewing that. So we're ready to say what the outcome of that might be.
If I understood correctly, data, IT data, using servers, using.
Certainly, so that was a bad idea, and effectively, although correct me if I'm wrong, are we moving to sort of cloud first, so we don't have our own servers? That's been a strategy we've adopted just after I came, so I can safely say that is the strategy. We are not to host moving our own hardware from the server room below, and where the market allows, using the market to provide better software and better hosting and more resilient hosting. What we are aware of, and I think I've covered this before in previous scrutiny, is that the market around public sector applications, so for example Revs and Bens, hasn't been particularly good. So the options of moving to cloud first, bluntly, are our software to different suppliers, critically enabling us to not be locked in by those suppliers, effectively keeping our data in a form that isn't easily transferable to others. The cost of moving is very high. And what we are seeing as market changes, as you read through the documents, you'll see that that's the discussion that we have concerning our Revs and Bens service.
Thank you. So, obviously we're parish councils. We thought it's not really safe. The question is, how has that been possible? Or the trial. It's now since I moved to Sussex. Prior to that, I lived in there. It's not public. It is not science and food waste in place. It's good going and in far limited way. So all residents are not benefiting from the
I can do is I can give you a response summary on housing options and also how we manage and support those people and identify other available accommodation for them to move into. And that's been key. So that's partly been our working with the private sector and partly working with housing associations. And that's been that's not to say there's more to do. There is more to do, and credits were more upstream, so we can kind of onus, but also looking at how do we support people in paying rent and those sorts of things. And that's where mixed around benefits, for example,
to be able to support us, and they in turn need more than one district to want to move to this service, and that's an ongoing issue across the county because authorities are in truth in different places about their readiness to move to a food waste service. So we've been dead keen from the get-go, and we are still, but neighbouring authorities aren't quite in that position, either politically or practically. And so that's the continued work we need to do with our partners to try and
Pick up on the digital and technology on page 23, please. So as we are going more and more digital, and that clearly gives many benefits, which is why we're doing it. But of course, it also gives new risks, new failure modes. For example, the risks like the lock-in that Simon mentioned earlier, and just the fact that, of course, if you're doing more of your business than they were before. My question is, do you also sort of financial contingency in the budget for a larger part of the organisation, the way in which we do work? Is that baked in? Is that part of the budget? Thank you.
Thank you. 25/17, I don't have much hope of a positive answer on it, but this is personal council development. Have any luck?
I see no more indications on that section, so moving to start on page 35, organisational development, corporate resources, legal and democratic services. Louise, please.
looking at got a big focus that started already on what we're doing with our communication services, and I see that as being a key focus for us, and we're obviously going to be delivering the election. So I guess this section is hopefully back behind the
Questions for Councillor Hicks?
What's the, just a bit more detail there would be interesting. And on the, in terms of the community engagement budget and the 100,000 on community development grants, what is
Thank you, Councillor Hicks.
that we're in a very demanding market at the moment for skills in the public sector and in local government in particular. So we really do need to make sure that we onboard new starters really effectively, that we invest in all our staff in terms of training and development, and generally provide an environment in which they wish to stay and thrive, and that's essential. That goes to the heart of what we do. So that is an absolute priority for us, particularly at the moment, but always. And you'll know as Mid Sussex, we sort of laugh and send ourselves up a little bit, but it is like a which is the question you asked us ahead of the meeting. And you're right, the way that things like warm hubs have worked is the town and councils have, the town and parishes have made a contribution, which we're grateful.
Catherine, Louise, did you want to take a point? I think it was about service redesign March, if I got that correctly.
Yes, it was. My experience was wonderful, but it is really important to us that people settle in, so I'd echo everything that Catherine said. I'm going to ask you to point me to a particular point of 2024 because it's likely to.
On the urban service plan, anyway, but perhaps we can take that outside.
Yeah, I'll pick that with the outside.
Thank you. Councillor Hanson.
IDs to mix.
To be provided by council staff.
Working with being able to handle lots of inquiries, but also to give people advice on the types of things that they can use and the deadlines. If for any reason that the national campaigns
Which is 1.8 million. Something like in the narrative on page 6, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, it also includes the assistant directors.
Lead us on this, please.
Yes, so colleagues, I'd just remind us that we have a dynamic rolling capital programme, and one of the things that Rachel is going to be working on is that routine reporting and that. So what you've got here is a kind of summary of things that are already in train. We've already identified that some of those are to replacement internally, and there's been some I or colleagues who are delivering these projects will take questions as they are, but this is absolutely something we intend to keep growing in life across the year.
Henrik.
Thank you. I'm just looking on page 40. Just to clarify, I know it's nitpicking, but when it says and services, the Patong Park, like that, it's up to, and I would like to support, this further down, upgrading play equipment at St. John's Playground in Burgess Hill. I would like to support any, I know that's not going to happen for several.
Brief details. I've not personally seen the intended sort of plans for that. Obviously, it's an existing old site. Well, I'm delighted to see it. So, if you could give on that particular project.
Feasibility studies, so looking at the cost of build, looking at reduce build costs, those sorts of things. And also dealing with that, so that work is underway.
Councillor Hicks.
Councillor, I think we both like a bit more detail about what is involved, as we've had questions from residents. A resident there.
Yes, of course. Would it be okay if, given its sensitive nature, if we do that to you and your ward member privately? Thank you.
Councillor Annie.
Thank you, Chair. Question, page 46, St John's Park Master Plan, it figure, do you have a figure yet on that one? Second, if we open the markets, a survey, which is mentioned on page 47 and at the very end of the document, is such a thing the hill, which is actually in very poor state. It's really neither.
On St John's, which was the urban park, yes, we we've currently done the installation design, and we are in to procure on that. All the devices that covers all our parks, and we can prioritise meets customer needs, but also what's the most effective and covers all our car parks.
Indication, Councillor Hudson-Bennett.
Thank you. Picking up on Councillor Phillips, the urban park, do you anticipate that 100% increase in 22-23? Really. Second question, again, what update can you provide on that?
Questions about it? Yes. The provide you with that information. I don't have that currently.
Appreciate this is time to discuss in detail. I expect to do so on page 45. Can extend and I'm assuming that work should start. Future goals. I just want to make that point.
Thank you, Councillor Drum. I think you've made that point before. Point noted. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so that concludes that section. Councillor Phillips, you put forward reasons. I think it's important. Yeah. Any more, or do you would like to move?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would recommend we did that, Chairman. I can just say that I've been on Worth Parish Council for 20 years now, and there was a period when a group of members were very firm that they didn't want to increase the precept at all. With inflation, we found we just got no money to spend on anything. So, you know, I say the sum is small. It's another £29,000, I believe, from the paperwork, but I would suggest.
Thank you, Chairman. Might be an issue the committee needs to vote on.
By the way, is anybody who wants to second Councillor Phillips' motion of the max 2.99? Okay, so I think. Oh, sorry, Christy Adams, sorry.
just like to make a comment that I understand why your reasoning is very sound, but as we understand, there's lots of different classes, and people are going to residents feel very concerned that we won't any higher. Personally, it would be I completely understand with the inflationary cost of gas.
Thank you. As there's nobody seconding that, the recommendation will be 2.75 in 4B. So I'm going to take them all on block there. Recommendations. The committee is asked to consider the proposal for 2023-24 set out in the appended corporate plan and budget 2023 report and agree any comments or recommendations that it wishes to make to Cabinet on A, the financial outlook facing the Council over the medium term, the proposed increase in council tax being 2.75%, the strategy to use Treasury management income and then, if needed, general reserve to balance the budget over the medium term, D, updates to the capital programme strategy, and E, the service commentaries and supporting supplementary budget tables for each service area. So if you would like to vote on that, please. Is it a point of order? Try.
We need to note. We need to know.
Very much. Thank you very much, Robert. Oh. No, because there's some people missing from the committee. Is that right? There's 14, yeah, okay. 14 out of 15 or something like that. But that motion is carried, and thank you very much, everybody, for the robust discussion, and thanks for officers for thank you very much indeed. Right, last, I think we get to the item on my agenda. Item 7, pages 11 and 12, agenda, work programme 2023.
Proposed items to come to the next meeting for any comment and agreement from yourselves and the committee.
Seated until the live feed goes off. Thank you very much, everybody.